Welcome to The Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. I have with me today Manny at Pushworth, and our very special guest is Vanessa Hutley from Music Rights Australia. Now, lockdown has been brutal and cruel for business in the events, hospitality and music industries. However, it has also led to this boom in live streaming because I guess businesses in those industries have had to pivot and innovate really in just a few days. So Vanessa is here to talk to us about how Music Rights Australia protects the creative interests of artists and especially talk about what's happening with this time that none of us expected. So Vanessa, thank you so much for having a chat to us today. How are you?
I'm well, and thanks for the interest. As you said, these are extraordinary times, and extraordinary times bring out amazing innovation. And so what I'm going to talk about are some problems. I think what's really front and centre is the music industry, as it always has done, is standing on its own feet, looking at the issue and addressing it front on. I'm amazed and comforted at the extraordinary innovation of artists, the labels, everyone, the music teachers who have, completely embraced remote teaching with their students. It's extraordinary. So I'd like to put what I'm going to talk to you about, what I see as some of the challenges and problems in that context. We've got people who, literally on the 13th of March, their lives fell into disarray. Live disappeared. And no one is questioning that decision by the government to protect the wider community. No one is saying that was the wrong decision. But that placed musicians and artists and roadies and everyone in between in the music industry in a completely different world. And for music, I think it's going to be a world that we're going to be in for a lot longer than many others, because live performance and large groups are not going to be going to come back quickly. I think then what we want to look at is what's happening on live. So rather than be in a concert or in a pub, people have embraced live streaming, and that's great. But where that innovation starts, there is also exploitation. Even before COVID, since 2014, we have been quite adamant and have been vocal about the fact that there is little protection online for creators when people want to rip their music off. What was and has been an ongoing issue, as I said, since before 2014, but it crystallised in 2014. It's now what was a big issue is now an urgent issue. Yes. If the only place you're going to be able to recoup and make a living is online, and you don't have an architecture in the form of the Copyright Act or the tools to protect your work, that money is essentially going into the hands of the very people who give back nothing to artists and also exploit fans. So this isn't just a theoretical issue. Data out of the UK has shown that there's been, in that Q1 during their prime lockdown, there was a 50% increase of people going to illegal and unauthorised sites. And we're seeing a similar growth of people actually going towards those sites. Right. So that means licensed music services such as Spotify and everything else, they are being forced to compete with these illegal sites. Now, how do these illegal sites make their money? What's really depressing is they make it through advertising. Right. So the advertising community is putting money onto these sites. They don't pay for the music and they don't care about the music. And they harvest the data of the people who go to the sites, but they're supported by ad revenues. So we've got a two-pronged problem here. We have not the infrastructure within the Copyright Act to get the stuff down off these illegal sites, but also they're being inflated by enormous amounts of dollars flowing through the advertising that's placed on it.
Wow.
So they're big challenges. As we've been saying, this is not a new problem, it's an urgent problem.
That's right. So Vanessa, what's the first step for us now that we have unexpectedly found ourselves in this place where artists, because they want to keep their music brand alive, they're live streaming? What can we do? What's the first step?
Well, I think the important thing to do is investigate the sites and the technologies you want to use to live stream. Now, there are lots of opportunities there, and the platforms are really stepping up and trying to make those available. Our big problem is that a live stream can be ripped by anyone and then placed either into what we call cyber lockers or onto social media. What we don't see the platforms doing is helping the rights holders remove those unlicensed postings. And that's where we think the issue is. No one's questioning licensed services. They're doing a fantastic job and everyone's stepping up. We have this massive gap, which is when that unlicensed music is placed on the service, there's no effective measure to get it removed, and importantly, removed permanently. Because everyone knows you can send a notice to one of the platforms and through a very laborious process, they'll take it down. Instantaneously, the same post pops up like a Pez dispenser. Mm-hmm. We need to have effective legislation, which means you remove permanently, and if you don't, you're taken to have authorised that. You can't sit back as a platform and say, oh, there's nothing I can do. I'm not responsible. We are asking for all the platforms, and that's, every social media platform, to be a corporate and responsible citizen. Everyone loves digital. Everyone wants live stream. We absolutely see that as the future. And we are. 62% of the Australian revenues are streaming services. No one is standing back and saying this is not the future. No. But we want that future to be fair for everyone.
Okay, so what can the artists do when they're actually live streaming? What would you recommend? What's a couple of tips for them to consider?
As I said, make sure the platforms you're on, try as much as you can to have some sort of payment service which is secure. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think it's wonderful the way artists have embraced the whole live stream, but they shouldn't be discounting their art and they shouldn't be discounting their important revenue. This is their future. I think it's important for them to investigate ways for people to contribute to their artistry so that they have sustained careers.
Great. Wow. This has just opened up such a tin of worms, hasn't it, when you think about it? Oh, my goodness. Manny.
Hey, Vanessa, thanks for coming on. And you've already answered my questions anyway, which was the mechanism that once you've established the copyright owners, etc., what you then do with it online and, what the mechanism is to actually unprotect the copyright. But I've got a vexing question at the moment, which has been really, really bothering me, just to digress from where we are at the moment. I'm a consumer of, live music. I download it onto my computer, onto my iPad, my iPod, etc. I then choose to sell that particular computer, iPod. Is it incumbent upon me as the owner of that particular mechanism to then, to sort of delete that music before I sell it? Or once I sell that item, who owns the copyright?
Well, the copyright never leaves the person who is the copyright owner. They grant you a license under certain terms to use it in a certain way. If they've allowed you to download it and you've paid, a license fee for that purpose, that is something you have been permitted in your personal capacity. You are not allowed to then on-sell it because you aren't the licensee. So, the best step is if you want to, everybody's recycling, we're giving computers away from my place and making sure they go to students who are in need. But it's incumbent on you, and it's not just the music on it, but it's also the software. Make sure that you have got a licensed copy that you're permitted to move with the computer, and if you're not permitted to use whatever's on, move whatever's on the computer to a third party, remove it. And a lot of that stuff can be personal stuff to you, and you may not want other people to have it. So it's not only just a question of the right licensing issues and respecting people's copyright, it's also about your personal data.
Absolutely.
This is a great call to action today.
Absolutely.
I would recommend everyone go to Music Rights Australia website. It's got incredible fact sheets and this plethora of resources to help you to understand what your rights are, because it costs tens of thousands of dollars to produce these creative works. You want to make sure you protect that, and it's an investment that you make in your business. It's a business. So, look, Vanessa, you've given us a lot to think about today. You've given an enormous amount of information for our artists, but also our venues and people that work in events. So we really want to thank you for taking the time to bring this issue up today. we'll definitely be staying in touch with you, I guess, to see moving forward what we can all do together to make sure we can actually, fix, I guess, what would you call it? Fix this gap, really address this.
Look, I think you're right, Nikki. And, if I could actually say to one person is, everybody lives in a community, and every community has someone who represents them in Parliament, particularly the federal Parliament. You are a small business owner, whether you're an artist and you run your own business or you're a venue owner. This is about you telling them what your community needs. Your community needs a way for your future to be as it was before COVID-19, sustainable, self-directed, and innovative. And that's all anybody's asking, is let us be in that same environment when we all come out of this, hopefully very healthily and safely.
Oh, I love it. Call to action, guys. You've heard it here. Vanessa, thank you so much. We wish you the best as we get out of this lockdown. We'll very much stay in touch with you. Thank you so much.
I hope you all stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.